The morning mist was just lifting off Pine Ridge when I heard the unmistakable sound of someone stomping through the underbrush. From my cabin porch, I watched as a woman in a bright pink pantsuit emerged from the tree, waving a clipboard. Like it was a weapon. Her perfectly styled blonde hair somehow remained intact despite the branches she just fought through. "Finally found you," she announced triumphantly, marching up to my property line. "I'm Patricia Whitmore, president of the Willowbrook HOA, and you owe us 3 years of back rent." I took a slow sip of my coffee and nodded toward the weathered wooden post marking my property boundary. "See that marker? Your Hines there? This cabin sits on private land outside your development." Her face turned an impressive shade of red. "That's impossible. Every property in this area falls under our jurisdiction." "Not this one," I said calmly, "but you're welcome to check the county records." She huffed and scribbled furiously on her clipboard. "We UNK lines see about that, mister. What's your name?" "Jake Morrison," I replied. "And before you waste more of your morning, this is a legally permitted off-grid homestead. Solar-powered, rainwater collected, composting toilet, the works. Completely self-sufficient and completely outside your authority." Patricia's eyes narrowed. "Off-grid or not, you're affecting our property values. I'll be back." 2 years ago, I'd purchased this 5-acre plot specifically because it bordered but didn't belong to the Willowbrook subdivision. After 20 years in corporate finance, I wanted something different. The land came cheap because of its remote location, sitting just beyond where the paved roads ended, and the hose-manicured lawns gave way to actual forest. Building the cabin had been a labor of love. Every permit was properly filed with the county. The solar panels came from a company in Colorado. The rainwater collection system was designed by a local expert. The composting system met all state regulations. I'd done everything by the book, knowing that living this close to suburbia might eventually attract attention. The first few months were peaceful. I'd wake with the sunrise, tend my small vegetable garden, and work on freelance consulting projects using satellite internet. Neighbors from Willowbrook would occasionally hike past on the public trail that skirted my property, always friendly, always curious about the hermit in the woods. That changed when Patricia Whitmore was elected HOA president. Within weeks, the friendly hikers disappeared, replaced by stern-faced board members taking photos from the trail. Then came the letters. The first one arrived via certified mail, which meant hiking to the post office in town. Notice of an authorized structure. It read, "The Willowbrook HOA has identified an unpermitted building within our extended jurisdiction. You have 30 days to submit architectural plans for approval or face fines." I ignored it. My cabin wasn't in their jurisdiction, extended or otherwise. The second letter threatened daily fines of $50. The third claimed I was in violation of 17 different covenants, from unapproved exterior color to excessive natural landscaping. Each letter grew more absurd than the last. Then Patricia started showing up in person. She'd stand at my property line with her clipboard, taking photos and shouting questions. "What's your roof made of? Is that cedar shake? That's not on our approved materials list." Or, "Those solar panels are reflecting light into our community. They need to come down immediately." I'd wave from my porch and go back to my coffee. This only made her angrier. One morning, she brought reinforcements. 3 other board members who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. "Mr. Morrison," Patricia announced, "we're here to conduct an official inspection." "Of what?" I asked. "Your property, of course. We need to ensure compliance with HOA standards. You're welcome to inspect any property under your jurisdiction." I said, "This isn't one of them. Every property that impacts our community falls under our jurisdiction," she insisted. "That's not how property law works," I replied, "but feel free to consult an attorney." One board member, a nervous man named Gerald, tugged at Patricia's sleeve. "Maybe we should verify the property lines first," he suggested. Patricia whirled on him. "Whose side are you on, Gerald? This shack is making our million-dollar homes look like they border a homeless camp." "It's a cabin," I corrected. "And those million-dollar homes border a forest. I'm just living in it." The next escalation came through the mail, another certified letter, but this one felt different. The language was more formal, more legal. Patricia had filed a lien with the county clerk's office. The document claimed my property fell under the original Willowbrook development plan and that I owed 3 years of back HOA dues at $500 per month plus late air fees plus interest. The total came to $23,000. She'd also added a maintenance fee for community beautification efforts necessitated by adjacent blight, another $10,000. The lien stated that failure to pay within 30 days would result in foreclosure proceedings. I sat down my coffee and finally got angry. Filing a false lien wasn't just harassment, it was fraud. The next morning, I drove into town and met with Martin Chen, a property rights attorney recommended by the county clerk, who'd seemed sympathetic when I'd called about the lien. Martin reviewed my property deed, the original subdivision plans, and the lien Patricia had filed. He actually laughed when he finished reading. "She filed this under oath," he asked, "claiming your property is part of the HOA. Apparently," I said, "your land isn't just outside their jurisdiction." Martin explained, spreading out a survey map. "It's in a completely different zoning district. You're zoned agricultural residential, they're zoned planned community. There's literally a legal firewall between your properties. So the lien is fraudulent, filed under penalty of perjury." She either knew she was lying or was grossly negligent in not verifying basic facts. Martin smiled. "This is actually beautiful. She's given us everything we need." We filed a formal complaint with the State Real Estate Commission and a motion to remove the fraudulent lien. Martin also prepared a cease and desist letter and a counter-suit for harassment and slander of title. The county clerk expedited our motion, and within a week I received notice of a hearing. Patricia would have to appear and defend her lien under oath. The courthouse in Cedar Falls was old but well maintained, all dark wood and high ceilings. I arrived early wearing my one good suit that I'd kept from my finance days. Martin was already there organizing documents. Patricia arrived 15 minutes late, flanked by a lawyer who looked like he'd rather be getting a root canal. She wore another pink suit, but her usual confidence seemed shaky. Judge Helen Crawford, a nonsense woman in her 60s, reviewed the documents in silence for several minutes. Finally, she looked up. "Miss Whitmore," she began, "do you have any evidence that Mr. Morrison's property falls within the Willowbrook HOA boundaries?" Patricia's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client believed in good faith that the property was part of the original development plan." "Based on what?" the judge asked. "The proximity to our community and the impact on our property values," Patricia interjected, ignoring her lawyer's warning. "Look." Judge Crawford's eyebrows rose. "So you filed a lien claiming legal authority over a property based solely on its proximity to yours? It's an eyesore." Patricia burst out. "That shack is visible from our walking trails. It has solar panels. There's no lawn, just wild vegetation. He's probably cooking meth in there." "Objection," Martin said, "though we weren't in that kind of proceeding." "Miss Whitmore," the judge said coldly, "accusations of criminal activity without evidence constitute slander. I'd advise you to stop talking." Patricia's lawyer put a hand on her arm, but she shook him off. "I'm protecting my community's investment. Home values matter, not more than property rights," Judge Crawford replied. "I've reviewed the surveys, deeds, and zoning maps. Mr. Morrison's property is clearly outside your HOA's jurisdiction. The lien you filed is fraudulent." She turned to the court clerk. "The lien is hereby vacated. All fees and penalties claimed are void." Then back to Patricia. "Miss Whitmore, filing a false lien is a serious matter. You swore under oath that you had legal authority. You clearly don't possess. But furthermore," the judge continued, "your continued harassment of Mr. Morrison, including defamatory statements made in this courtroom, opens you to civil liability. Mr. Chen, I assume you'll be pursuing that." Martin stood. "Yes, Your Honor. We're seeking damages and injunctive relief." Judge Crawford nodded. "Miss Whitmore, I'm finding you $5,000 for fraudulent filing and abuse of the legal system. You will also pay all of Mr. Morrison's legal fees. Any further attempts to assert authority over his property will result in criminal charges for harassment and fraud. Do you understand?" Patricia's face had gone from red to white. $5,000. "But I'm protecting." "You're protecting nothing." The judge cut her off. "You're abusing your position to harass a neighbor whose only crime is living differently than you. The fine is due within 30 days. Court is adjourned." As we left the courtroom, Patricia's lawyer was already distancing himself, walking several feet ahead of her. She stood in the hallway clutching her clipboard, looking stunned. 2 weeks later, I heard through the town grapevine that an emergency HOA meeting had been called. Gerald, the nervous board member from that inspection attempt, had circulated a petition for Patricia's removal. The meeting was standing room only. According to my nearest actual neighbour, Tom, who lived just inside Willowbrook, Patricia tried to defend herself by claiming she was protecting everyone's investments. But when the legal fees were announced, nearly $40,000 that the HOA would have to pay from their reserves because Patricia had acted outside her authority, the crowd turned hostile. The vote was 137-3 for immediate removal. Patricia actually screamed, "You'll regret this when your property values tank," before storming out. She was served with the HOA's own cease and desist letter the next day, banning her from acting in any official capacity. Tom told me she tried to enter the HOA office that weekend, but found the locks had been changed. I put the finishing touches on my new sign that afternoon, carved from a fallen oak tree, the letters carefully burned in, "Private property, not your HOA." I installed it right at the property line where Patricia had first emerged from the woods. The next morning, I saw her standing at the tree, staring at the sign. She no longer carried her clipboard. For a moment, our eyes met across the distance. Then she turned and walked back toward her perfect suburban home, her shoulders slumped. In defeat, the fine notice from the state arrived at her house that same day. $5,000 due immediately. Tom later told me she'd screamed so loud that 3 neighbors called 911, thinking someone was being murdered. The responding officers left after determining it was just Patricia reading her